Hello, this PowerPoint presentation will be illustrated by Chantelle Davies, 908052. I will be providing a critical review of the history of British policing, discussing the changes to policing over the decades, alongside arguments of criminologists. To begin, one must define what is meant by the term British policing. The Home Secretary began to define the philosophy of British policing by referring to policing by consent, which is also known as the Robert Peel's 9 Principles of Policing. Every police officer is subjected to these principles since 1829 to set out general instructions for their performance and duties to the public. The Home Office 2012 note that the term refers to the power of the police coming from the common consent of the public, as opposed to the power of the state. No individual can choose to withdraw his or her consent from the police or from the law for that matter. It is important to have a knowledge of the history of policing in the United Kingdom in order to understand the transformation. Such changes may include the purpose, duties, and structural factors of the British police that has contributed to the personal image every UK citizen has of the policing today. Furthermore, one must examine the functions of the police in modern day society to understand the different policing roles and responsibilities that have changed through this transformation, which I will discuss through the stages of years further on. Where it all began, between the 400s and 1066. This period was the earliest stage known to have a form of policing in Britain, known as the Anglo-Saxon period. Even though the period did not necessarily have a police force in place, the illustration of crime and punishment among society was of importance. There were 7 different laws introduced, also referred to as kingdoms. The laws covered crimes such as theft, violence, murder, and so on. The Anglo-Saxon period placed crime prevention squarely on the local community. Currat and Stringham outlined to carry out policing duties. The hundreds were composed of 10 tingings of 10 men each. They were all responsible for each other, alongside the legislation Weregild, which was the compensation paid to the victims of crime. The period even believed in the death penalty for treason or murder, which highlights how the law enforcement has changed over the decades, possibly for the better. Between 1272 and 1307, the reign of King Edward I introduced and legally established the system of law and order known as the Statute of Winchester, 2085. A process called the hue and cry was introduced, where bystanders were summoned to assist in the catching of a criminal who has been witnessing the act of committing a crime, almost identical to a police officer's role today. Every citizen has a duty to become a parish constable for at least a year, with no hard pay. Newburn 2008 describes such watch duties as unpopular, which suggests they may have also been very unpleasant. Henry Fielding was a famous chief magistrate at Bow Street Court in 1748, where he became responsible for the shifting of focus from reactive policing to proactive during this time. Leading up to the 19,000s, the population was increasing and communities were growing, which thrived for more protection. It was granted that the wealthy took over the state, using the poor as types of watchmen. They would be paid to carry out such policing duties. London, in particular, employed watchmen to guard the city at night. A nickname stuck with these poor watchmen, known as Charlies, after Charles II. It was considered the period of political and social unrest. In result of this, the UK Parliament outlines by the 19,000s the number of police in England, Wales, and Scotland totaled to 46,800, working in 243 separate forces. To become an orthodox, one must have a conservative view that sees the emergence of the new police as an institution of national pride. Such groups include gangsters, criminals, and others similar. Critley, 1978, states that the orthodox involved the breakdown in law and order marched in step with the progress of industrial revolution. On the other hand, a revisionist challenges the orthodox by allowing the dominant classes to maintain power over the lower classes. Such groups include the upper class. In light of this, one must consider the Marxist foundations that emerged during this period. Michael and Wright 2006 note that the results to the Marxist approach suggest it centres around the rise of capitalism and class conflict. the creation of fear of the dangerous classes that were centred in poor areas. With capitalism requiring the labour force to be subject, tighter discipline during this period was inflicted. Many criminologists question whether they are in fact echoes of today. They also argue that the orthodox were wrong in the lack of appreciation of the rational opposition. However, the revisionists did overemphasize the continuing working class opposition. The communities of this period also reinforced the need for the new police to be formed. Peel's nine principles of policing was also involved in this important change, where new reformed guidelines on how police officers should now be behaving leading up to the 20th century. Policing during the 20th and 21st century is believed to be the most advanced form of British policing yet. The technologies that are available to police officers today, in comparison to the Anglo-Saxon period, are outstanding. Bryan and Hummer 2016 note that the technological innovation has been the hallmark of law enforcement since the first organised police forces in London. Even though the advanced forms of protective measures and equipment, such as tasers since 2008, enable the officers to make arrests easier, the police are still requesting more, which have resulted in body-worn cameras and drones to be introduced. Although the change of policing has shown to demonstrate beneficial factors to society, the development of such advanced level of technologies has had its challenges. For example, Davies and Taylor discussed the Mark Duggan case and outlined how the police killed Duggan from using security equipment without the full knowledge of the correct use. Other criticisms of the new police include the threat to civil liberties, fears of potential abuse, high costs, lack of visibility, and the others displayed on screen. To conclude, policing began with the purpose to organise officers of the state. However, COPS 2014 state that police departments are far more complex than they were a generation or two ago. The British police has grown and developed from as early as the 400s, where the only form of policing was the poor as watchmen and the law's minimal guidelines, which to this present day, where technology is at its most advanced, and seen to be of key importance for the British police. The Home Office 2017 note that the UK and the EU should work together to design new dynamic arrangements as part of the future partnership to help maintain a good security system for the police for the future. There are 137 different terms that have emerged to describe policing. However, the clarity of the terms still remains unclear. Understandably, with the different forms of policing that have made their appearance over the years, one could debate whether the term will ever hold a clear set meaning. I hope you are able to take away a lot from this presentation. Thank you for listening and goodbye.